Your Next 5 Moves, by David. Introduction. Imagine you're 8 years old. You're in the back of your family's small, white Renault, driving away from everything you've ever known. The air is filled with the terrifying sound of sirens, a sound that pierces your soul. Your family is fleeing a war-torn country, Iran, hoping for a life where the whistling of bombs falling from the sky isn't a daily reality. You cross a bridge, a simple structure of concrete and steel. Your father, gripping the wheel, tells you and your sister not to look back. But you're a child. You can't help it. You turn around just in time to see a massive flash. A bomb has just obliterated the very bridge you crossed only seconds before. You see the devastation, the chaos, and an image is burned into your mind that you will carry for the rest of your life. That little boy, David, could have been broken by that moment. He could have let the trauma of living in a refugee camp for 2 years, or the struggle of arriving in America at 12 with little English, define him as a victim. He could have listened to the relatives and friends who told him that with his 1.8 GPA in high school, he would never amount to anything. But he didn't. Instead, he learned one of the most powerful secrets of success, a secret that allows chess grandmasters to see the board not as it is, but as it will be 10 or 15 moves from now. He learned to see life as a game of strategy. Today, we're diving into his incredible book, Your Next 5 Moves. David built a financial services company with over 15,000 agents and a media company, Value Attainment, that has reached billions of views, not because he was the smartest person in the room, he'd be the first to tell you he wasn't, but because he mastered the art of thinking ahead. This book isn't really about business. It's about a mindset. It's a playbook for anyone who has ever felt like an underdog, anyone who has ever been counted out, anyone who wants to stop reacting to life and start commanding it. And my promise to you is this: by the end of our time together, you will understand the fundamental difference between amateurs and grandmasters in the game of life. You will have a clear framework for making decisions, building a team, and scaling your ambitions, all by learning how to master your next 5 moves. Book summary. So, what is the secret that separates the Elon Musks and Kobe Bryants of the world from everyone else? David tells us it's surprisingly simple. Most people live their lives thinking only one move ahead. We are driven by immediate feelings, fear, ego, a sudden spark of emotion. Your top employee threatens to quit if he doesn't get a raise. The amateur reacts, saying, "Nobody threatens me. We don't need him anyway." The grandmaster, however, pauses. She isn't thinking about the threat, she's already plotting her next 5 moves. This is the central idea of the entire book. To win the long game, you must stop being a reactor and start being a strategist. And this journey, this transformation from amateur to master, begins with the first, most important move of all. Move 1. Master knowing yourself. Before you can plan a single move on the chessboard of your life, you have to answer the most fundamental question there is: who do you want to be? It sounds simple, almost like a philosophical daydream. But Patrick insists that without a crystal clear answer to this, every strategy will fail. Your answer to this question determines everything: how you handle setbacks, who you bring into your life, and what sacrifices you're willing to make. Patrick learned this the hard way. Early in his career, he was a star salesman at Bally Total Fitness. His plan was to become the next Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was promised a big promotion to a manager position in Hollywood if he could turn around a failing gym in a remote location. He didn't just meet the goal, he crushed it, taking the club from 40% of its revenue target to 115% in 90 days. He had objectively earned the promotion. But when he walked into his boss's office, ready for his victory, he was told the position had been given to someone else, someone with more seniority but far worse results. corporate politics had overruled merit. In that moment, a firestorm of anger and betrayal washed over him. He was faced with a choice: accept the injustice and stay, or do something drastic. He quit on the spot. Driving home, petrified, he felt like he had just made the worst decision of his life. But that night, as the raw emotion subsided, he realized he could never again let his destiny be in someone else's control. That painful moment forced him to look inward and define, for the first time, who he wanted to be. He made a list. He wanted to work with people who kept their word. He wanted a clear path to success based purely on results. And he wanted to build a team that shared his vision. That clarity, born from pain, became his compass. This is a recurring theme in the book. Your greatest fuel often comes from your deepest pain. He tells the story of Barbara Corcoran, the real estate mogul from Shark Tank. Her boyfriend and business partner left her for her assistant and told her on his way out the door, "You'll never succeed without me." That insult, that moment of profound rejection, became her rocket fuel. She built a real estate empire and sold it for $66 million, not just to get rich, but to prove him wrong. Patrick encourages you to do the same. Think back to a teacher, a boss, or a relative who doubted you. Don't bury that memory. Use it. That feeling of never again is one of the most powerful motivators on the planet. For Patrick, the ultimate never again moment came when he was 23. His father was in the hospital after his 13th heart attack, receiving terrible care at a public facility. Patrick lost control, screaming and throwing things until security escorted him out. As he sat in his car, crying, a stranger's words echoed in his head. The man had told him, "If you had money, you could get better insurance. But you didn't pay for this. Taxpayers are." The anger was replaced by a tidal wave of shame. His father was suffering because he, Patrick, had failed. That night, the old Patrick died. The guy who partied and racked up credit card debt was gone. In his place was a man with a singular mission: to make the name Bet David mean something. He swore his father would never again receive lousy health care. That pain gave him absolute clarity. And with clarity comes the ability to make your next move. Move 2. Master the ability to reason. Once you know who you want to be, the second move is mastering how you think. Life is going to throw problems at you constantly. The market will crash. A key partner will betray you. A global pandemic will shut down the world. The amateur panics. The grandmaster processes. Processing is the ability to stay calm in the storm, to analyze a problem logically, and to see the hidden consequences of your actions. And the most important trait for an effective processor is taking 100% responsibility. Poor processors blame. They say, "The economy is bad," or "My employees are lazy." They see themselves as victims. Great processors, on the other hand, always start with the word I. They ask, "How did I contribute to this? What could I have done differently? How can I solve this?" Patrick shares a great example of watching podcaster Joe Rogan handle a business dispute. Someone he partnered with wasn't representing their brand correctly. Instead of blaming the guy, Rogan caught himself and said, "Here we have a problem that we've allowed to be created." He owned his role in it. That shift from victim to owner is what gives you the power to find a solution instead of just complaining about the problem. To turn this mindset into a system, Patrick developed a methodology he calls Solve for X. Just like in algebra, where you have to find the unknown variable x to solve an equation, in business and life, you have to isolate the real problem. A colleague once told him, "I just don't love this anymore," referring to his job. Patrick pressed him, "What is this?" After digging, "The real problem?" The X apostrophe question mark wasn't the job itself. It was that the colleague had gained weight, felt tired, was in a sales slump, and had lost his self-esteem. The problem wasn't the career, it was his personal habits. Once he solved for the real X, he could take action. He started exercising again, regained his confidence, and his passion for the work returned. This process of digging for the X is about asking why, over and over again until you get to the root cause. Your top customer left. Why? A competitor has a lower price. Why? Their product has fewer features. Why? Because most customers don't actually need all the features our product has. Aha! Now you have the real problem. You're not selling the right product for the market. Patrick had to use this exact system when his own company was on the brink of collapse. Just 5 weeks after he launched his agency, Akin, a $400 billion industry giant, filed a lawsuit to put him out of business. He had poured his life savings into the company and convinced 66 people to leave their stable jobs to join him. The amateur would have raged. He would have let his ego take over and fought the lawsuit to the bitter end, even if it meant bankruptcy. But Patrick, thinking like a strategist, made 2 lists: what I can control and what I can't control. He couldn't control why Akin sued him, but he could control his response. He realized that winning in court wasn't the most important outcome. The most important thing was keeping his team's momentum and focus. Winning the war was more important than winning this single battle. So he made a calculated decision. He settled, wrote a massive check that crippled them financially, and moved on. It was a painful move, but it was the right one. It allowed them to survive and eventually thrive, because he didn't let emotion cloud his reasoning. Move 3. Master building the right team. No matter how brilliant you are, you will always lose to a team. The myth of the lone genius, the solopreneur who builds an empire by themselves, is just that, a myth. The third move is learning how to build your army. But before you can recruit anyone, you have to answer a critical question: why should someone work with you? Early on, people don't join your company, they join you. You are the benefits program. Do people win by being around you? Do you make them better? Do you have a track record of improving the lives of those in your circle? If the answer is no, you have no business trying to lead anyone. Once you become a person worth following, you need to surround yourself with the right people. This doesn't just mean hiring employees. It means finding your consigliere. In the mob, the consigliere is the Don's most trusted advisor, the person who isn't afraid to speak the truth, even when it's ugly. Every great leader has one. Warren Buffett has Charlie Munger. Steve Jobs had Steve Wozniak. These are people who challenge you, who see your blind spots, and who have the courage to tell you you're wrong. Patty McCord, the former chief talent officer at Netflix, once saw CEO Reed Hastings secretly fixing software bugs on his computer right before a major speech. She got in his face and said, "Stop being a geek engineer, and be a leader." He didn't fire her. He kept her for 14 years because he knew her challenges made him better. Insecure leaders want yes men. Great leaders want challengers. But with trust comes risk. Patrick tells the story of Donnie Brasco, the FBI agent who went undercover and infiltrated the mafia for 6 years. He earned the complete trust of the top bosses, who were some of the most suspicious people on earth. How? Greed. They saw him as a big earner and let their guard down. The lesson is brutal but clear. No matter how much you like someone, you must do your due diligence. Check references, do background checks, and never let charisma blind you to potential red flags. Once you have the right people, how do you keep them? You give them a piece of the action. Patrick argues that one of the most powerful forces behind America's success is the concept of equity, the chance to own something. It transforms an employee's mindset into an owner's mindset. They stop just working for a paycheck and start working to build the value of the company, because its success is now their success. He tells entrepreneurs to ask their boss what it would take to earn a piece of the company. If the boss says nothing, he advises them to leave. Because a leader who isn't willing to share the upside will never attract or keep true players. Move 4. Master the strategy to scale. You figured out who you are, how to think, and you've started building your team. Now, it's time to grow. This is Move 4, Scaling Your Vision. Patrick divides growth into two categories: linear and exponential. Linear growth comes from improving your operating systems and making more sales. It's important, but it's incremental. Exponential growth, the kind that creates empires, comes from only two places: launching innovative campaigns and developing leaders. An innovative campaign is a game-changing move that disrupts the market. Think of Mitsubishi offering to pay for its customers' gas for a year when prices were soaring. It was a brilliant marketing move that caught everyone off guard. But even the best campaigns are temporary. True, sustainable, exponential growth comes from leadership development. Your ability as a CEO will be judged not by your own talent, but by the quality of the leaders you create. This means identifying potential leaders, challenging them, and pouring your energy into them until they can build parts of the business on their own. And how do you forge these leaders? Through pressure. Patrick tells a story about NFL coach Bill Belichick, known for his relentless, almost insane expectations. One of his former players said that playing for Belichick was incredibly annoying because practices were so much harder than the actual games. Belichick applied so much pressure during the week that when Sunday came, the game felt easy. His players were desensitized to the stress. This is how you build an elite team. You set a standard so high that it's uncomfortable. You hold people accountable not to your expectations, but to the high expectations they set for themselves. At first, they may resent it. But eventually, the lions on your team, the true performers, will realize that the pressure is what's making them great. They thrive on it. This is what Steve Jobs did with his famous reality distortion field. He refused to accept other people's limitations. He would impose his will and his seemingly impossible deadlines, and because he believed it could be done, his team would find a way to do it, surprising even themselves. But as you scale, chaos is inevitable. Growth feels like everything is about to fall apart. This is where systems become your savior. Patrick is obsessed with data. He calls it Moneyball for business. He argues that you must have numbers you can track every single day. Numbers keep people honest. If a salesperson says, "I'm working hard, but the leads are weak," a bad manager argues. A great manager pulls up the data. "Paul, the data shows you made 20 calls this week. Our top performers make 100. Let's talk about that." The conversation shifts from opinion to fact. Data allows you to identify the real leaks in your business and fix them. And to truly scale, you have to codify your knowledge. Everything that exists only in your head, your sales process, your hiring method, your unique insights, must be turned into a system, a manual, or a video library that anyone can learn. If the business can't run without you, you don't own a business, you own a job. Creating transferable systems is what builds true, sellable value. Move 5. Master power plays. You've built your foundation, your mindset, your team, and your systems for growth. The final move is about how you engage with the world. It's about mastering power. Every person and every business has a Goliath, a competitor who is bigger, richer, and more established. Beating Goliath isn't about matching his strength, it's about exploiting his weakness. Goliaths are often comfortable, slow, and less hungry. Your advantages are speed, hunger, and the ability to attract other crazy, hungry people who would rather fight a giant than work for one. One of your most powerful weapons against Goliath is social media. It's the great equalizer. Goliath can spend millions on PR, but you can create a video on your phone that gets more views and makes a bigger impact. This is how you control the narrative. If you don't tell the world who you are and what you stand for, the world will decide for you. Patrick is adamant about this. You must be shameless. Not arrogant, but shameless in your self-promotion. Share your wins, but more importantly, share your losses. People don't connect with perfect robots. They connect with real humans who make mistakes and learn from them. This leads to the art of negotiation. Patrick studied mobsters, not to learn their criminal methods, but to understand their mastery of strategy, psychology, and leverage. When they sit down for a meeting, it can be a matter of life and death. Because the stakes are so high, their preparation is obsessive. He shares the 7 essential steps he takes before any high-stakes meeting, which include anticipating every possible thing the other side will say, role-playing the meeting multiple times, and spending most of the time addressing their needs, not his own. Before a major negotiation with a powerful insurance carrier, he spent 90% of his preparation thinking about what they wanted, what their fears were, and how he could solve their problems. He walked in and made them an offer they couldn't refuse, not because it was a threat, but because it was a win-win that was so clearly beneficial for them. Ultimately, real power is having options. The person who needs the deal the least has the most leverage. This is why you must never become dependent on a single customer, a single employee, or a single strategy. Always be cultivating new options. But perhaps the most profound power play of all is the one that seems the weakest: service. Patrick tells a story about meeting a very influential man named Eli. Instead of asking for anything, Patrick simply asked, "How can I help you?" The man got emotional and told him his son was in a rough prison 4 hours away and no one ever visited him. Without hesitation, Patrick agreed to go. He drove 4 hours, went through a rigorous security check, and spent the day with a complete stranger in a prison yard. He didn't do it to get something in return. He did it to serve. But that single act of service built a bond of trust so deep that Eli became one of his most powerful allies for life. The formula is simple but life-changing. Stop asking what people can do for you, and start asking what you can do for them. That is the ultimate source of power and influence. The entire book, all 5 moves, is a call to be more intentional. To stop being a pawn in someone else's game and start being the grandmaster of your own. It requires knowing yourself, reasoning clearly, building a loyal team, scaling with strategy, and wielding power with wisdom. It is a lifelong commitment to playing the game not just to win, but to become the greatest version of yourself. Commentary. As we step back and look at the chessboard Patrick Bet-David has laid out for us, what's the one lesson that truly stands out? For me, it isn't about a specific business tactic or a clever negotiation trick. It's the profound idea that your life, right now, is a strategy game. And whether you realize it or not, you are making moves every single day. The only question is whether you are playing like an amateur or training to be a grandmaster. This book is a powerful antidote to the reactive, distracted, and short-term way of living that modern life encourages. We are constantly bombarded with notifications, headlines, and other people's opinions, all of which push us to react emotionally and immediately. Your next 5 moves is a call to pause, to breathe, and to think. It's a reminder that the most powerful position on any board is not one of strength, but one of clarity. What makes Patrick's message so compelling is that he is the living embodiment of his own philosophy. This isn't academic theory. This is wisdom forged in the fires of war, immigration, failure, and relentless ambition. When he talks about using pain as fuel, you feel the heat of that bombed-out bridge in Iran. When he talks about betting on yourself, you feel the terror and conviction of quitting a stable job with no safety net. He proves that your starting point doesn't determine your destination, your strategy does. The most practical and, I believe, the most transformative idea in the book is the very first move: master knowing yourself. In a world obsessed with hustle and external metrics of success, he forces us to begin with the internal. Asking "Who do you want to be?" isn't a passive question. It's an active one. The answer becomes the North Star for every decision that follows. It's the filter through which you evaluate opportunities, relationships, and even your own daily habits. Without that filter, you are simply a ship without a rudder, pushed around by the currents of life. So, how can you start applying this grandmaster mindset today, even before you've built an empire? Let's make it simple. First, take the who question seriously. Find 30 minutes this week, just 30. Go somewhere quiet with a notebook, and write down your honest, unfiltered answer to the question, who do I want to be? Don't think about what's realistic or what others expect. Think about the person you would be if there were no limits. What do they value? How do they spend their time? How do they make others feel? This is the first step to creating your own compass. Second, identify your fuel. Think of one specific time in your life when you felt underestimated, doubted, or told no. Feel that sting again for just a moment. Now, instead of pushing it away, write down one small, concrete action you can take this week to use that feeling as motivation. Maybe it's studying an extra hour, making one more sales call, or finally starting that project you've been putting off. Turn that negative energy into a forward step. And third, practice your next move. Look at a small problem you're currently facing. It could be anything: a tough assignment at school, a disagreement with a friend, a challenge in your part-time job. Instead of just reacting, take out a piece of paper and map out 3 potential moves. For each move, write down the likely consequence, your next 1 or 2 moves. The goal isn't to find the perfect solution. The goal is simply to train your brain to stop reacting and start strategizing. This book is about so much more than business. It's a manual for living an intentional life. It teaches you that while you can't always control the pieces on the board, you can always control your next move. And in the long game of life, that is the only thing that truly matters. That was a deep dive into your next 5 moves by Patrick Bet-David. We've explored the core strategies today, but I'll be completely honest with you. A summary is like looking at a picture of a magnificent feast. You can see what's on the table, but you can't taste the flavors or feel the warmth. The real magic of this book happens when you read it for yourself, when one of Patrick's stories connects with a memory of your own, or a single sentence makes you see a problem in a whole new light. This summary is your invitation to the table. If anything we've discussed today has sparked something in you, I urge you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning, it's an experience that can fundamentally change the way you play the game. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you've found this journey valuable, do me a small favor and hit that subscribe button. It tells me that this work matters, and it ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing, one move at a time.